friends. Once upon a time, a long time ago, in the early 2000s, a cartoon came out called the Winx Club.
We are the Winx, we are the Winx, come join the club. We are the Winx, we are the Winx, we are the Winx, come join the club. We are the Winx.
And in the hellfire of the year we called 2020, it was announced that a live-action version of the Winx Club would be released, and fans grew concerned, particularly with this screenshot, which featured the main cast of the Winx Club devoid of color, both aesthetically and diversity-wise. It seemed as though the beloved children's cartoon Winx Club was getting the Riverdale treatment. Now, the whitewashing and lack of aesthetic that was apparent in the trailer made it seem to many fans that the writers were taking a beloved series, not paying attention to any of the elements that make the fans love the show, and giving it a dramatic style for the sake of what is trendy right now in an effort to make money. And while surfing around the internet, reading people's posts and watching their videos on it, fans are wondering if this show would even be any good. I realized I don't actually really remember anything from the Winx Club. Like, I know the characters, and if you were to show them to me, I would go, oh yeah, that's Bloom and that's Stella. And I remembered enough from it that when I first saw the screen cap, I didn't think it was the Winx Club because it looked so not Winx Clubby. But when it comes to the plot, I don't really remember any of it. So I decided I want to watch the show and see if it's actually any good in and of itself on its own merit. The show opens with a Scottish farmer trying to retrieve a missing sheep.
We are the Winx, we are the Winx.
And being brutally murdered. Oh my god. Also, that sheep was suspiciously unsympathetic towards that man being murdered. That man has kept that sheep alive, and he just watched him. Cut to the most horrifying place this show could be set. High school. We're quickly introduced to the main characters, and as an audience we can try to guess what their powers are being alluded to. Angst fairy, plant fairy, walking fairy, Instagram fairy, music fairy, and knife fairy. All the basic elements are here. Great! We learned from the Angst fairy that she's from Earth, which isn't normal, and she didn't even know that she was a fairy until about 3 months ago, so she's definitely a fish out of water. And also, there's different realms, 7 of them, and the human realm doesn't know about the other world, or really any of the other 7 realms. Which, like, what did we do? Why aren't we included? Is it because we burned witches? It's probably because we burned witches. Bloom meets with the headmistress, and we learn a few important things. Tinkerbell is real. The one thing that has crossed over from the human realm is Instagram, and fairies don't fly anymore?
Well, we had wings in the past. As we've evolved, transformation magic has been lost.
I want to talk to whoever in the process of evolving let the power of flight get lost. That's not evolving, that's not upgrading, that is messing up big time. Maybe that's why they didn't tell the humans that they exist, because we would never let them live down the fact that they can't fly. Also, Bloom is here to learn self-control because her ability lies in fire, and there was an incident that we don't know what it is yet. Even worse, she has 4 roommates and her parents don't actually know she's at basically the wizarding school of Hogwarts. Since Bloom comes from human parents, it means that she must have a dormant fairy bloodline in her family tree that decided to randomly spring up and give her the gift of fire. Tara seems like a walking angel on Earth, and people are entirely too rude to her. And Aisha is obsessed with swimming and goes twice a day. I used to be friends with a swimmer. It all tracks. We learned there are fairies called specialists, which seem to be people who train in hitting each other with sticks and their fists all day. 2 dudes are fighting, and their names are Riv and Knife Boy. And as all friends do, Riv is mocking him for having a crush on a girl after talking to her for 2 seconds. Oh, and Riv is racist towards gingers, apparently.
She's a ginge. They're all nuts. Amazing shags, though.
Oh, you speak from experience. Didn't realize your hand was a redhead.
Is this show actually going to be funny? Because that would be a pleasant surprise. A first year complains to the teacher about having to train to fight a threat they haven't seen. And you can just tell that he would be one of the Instagrammers in LA throwing a party during COVID because they haven't seen evidence of people getting severely sick. The teacher responds with telling him that he found a burned one when he was 10, and the burned one attacked his father, survived multiple gunshot wounds, and at the age of 10 he was forced to take the life of his own father.
Hey, I don't know how to talk to you.
Good, then you can shut up and listen.
Which gives us another crucial piece of world-building lore in that apparently these burned ones are like fairy zombies because something happens if they break your skin and you get infected. I'm guessing you get turned into another burned one. And they apparently used to terrorize them, but they are all hopefully dead now. But even if they weren't dead, it's okay because there's this barrier. So as long as nobody crosses past the barrier, you're safe. Damn it, Riv. Okay, everybody say bye to Riv. Thank you for your entertainment. You will be sorely missed. Oh no, he doesn't get killed, he just gets traumatized. And the teachers learn that we're starting off the school year with the return of the burned ones. There's a random redhead girl who is very rude and presumptuous to the assistant and gushes at the headmistress at how much she enjoys her, and okay. Bloom runs into Knife Dude at a party and tells him that she's going to go outside into the forest, and he does a terrible job at trying to deter her. Like, it's one thing if you're in a boarding school and you're like, yeah, well, you know, bears and wolves are in the forest, so you probably shouldn't go in there. No, as far as you guys know, outside of the barrier are potentially creatures that will attempt to kill on sight, and if they break your skin, will infect you and turn you into a fairy zombie. And knowing this information, and knowing that she does not know this information, he just says, or there could be something worse than a bear.
This scene feels like a video game, but where the player chooses the worst dialogue options.
She's human! She's probably gonna think like, okay, a badger? I can handle a badger. They're more scared of you than they are scared of me. Maybe the specialist training needs to include on how to properly explain danger to people because he is failing massively. But Bloom goes out into the forest to practice her magic safely without the fear of burning anyone because she really wants to get back home but can't get back home until she has a control over her powers, and she does successfully manage to start a fire.
This girl is on fire.
Unfortunately, she failed to figure out the most important part of fire safety, and that's don't start a fire if you don't have the ability to stop it. But luckily, Aisha is able to intervene. Afterwards, we learn that Bloom and her mother have a very strained relationship, and after one particularly bad fight, her mother took away her door, and it led to Bloom finding out she had fire abilities because she accidentally set fire to her house, which led to her mother getting covered in third-degree burns. Which means I get to incorporate my college major! Burns are tissue damage that happen from exposure to heat, or overexposure to sun or radiation, or certain chemicals. Burn classifications are based on how many layers of skin get damaged. A first-degree burn only impacts the epidermis. This is a relatively minor burn and should only cause redness and some pain. Next we have our second-degree burn. This is a little bit more intense than the first-degree burn. This type of burn affects both the epidermis and the dermis layer of the skin. It may cause swelling, red, white, or splotchy skin, and blisters can appear. The pain can be severe and scarring can develop. Next, but not last, is the third-degree burn, which Bloom's mother gets. A third-degree burn is a burn that has reached the fat layer beneath the skin. The burned areas may look black, brown, or white, and the skin may look leathery. Third-degree burns can also destroy nerves, which can cause numbness. Complications that Bloom's mother could be experiencing from receiving third-degree burns are as follows. A bacterial infection, which could lead to the bacteria entering the bloodstream and lead to sepsis. Fluid loss, dangerously low body temperature, breathing problems from intake of hot air or smoke, scars or rigid areas caused by overgrowth of scarring tissue, bone and joint problems. Now Aisha realizes that the math isn't adding up with Bloom's story and her abilities, and asks if it's possible if she's adopted, to which Bloom denies. Then Aisha has a revelation, which she handles telling Bloom with the tact and skillfulness you would expect from a high schooler. I'm not saying I would expect a high schooler to tactfully tell somebody that they think that they're not actually related to their parents and that their parents' real child was kidnapped and they were switched as part of a barbaric practice that is not common anymore. But also, I feel like the actor herself was lacking a little bit of emotional choices in that scene. It didn't feel like she was fully invested in it. Cut back to the school orientation welcome back party, and we learned that Reeve is apparently the guy that we were all warned about in our data programs about peer pressure, and as he's essentially forcing that kid who got low-key traumatized by their teacher earlier into drinking, the sweet and wonderful sunshine that is Tara swoops in to intervene and help out this poor student. And Reeve makes a fat joke, which means we don't like him anymore. But don't worry, Tara's got this.
People always think that they can treat the big girl like shit because we're sweet and we're harmless and we should be happy that you're even talking to us. But sometimes we've had a really, really bad day and some scrawny little arsehole says the wrong thing at the wrong time and suddenly we're not happy that you're talking to us and we're not sweet and most of all, we are not harmless.
Yes, 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 yes! I think she's my favorite character. And in a somewhat nice move, Stella lends Bloom her gateway ring, which will allow her to go back to the human realm and visit her parents. However, it's not totally altruistic because the gateway that Bloom would have to go to in order to be able to use this ring is deep in the forest, outside of the barrier. You know, in the forest where the burned ones potentially are. And she also offered the ring to her after she saw Bloom talking to Knife Boy. By the way, Stella and Knife Boy had a history until Stella stomped on his heart and ghosted him all summer. But, you know, Bloom makes it into the human realm and does not close the door behind her, which I'm sure will not come back to bite her at all. And this is why we close the doors behind us. Luckily, Bloom escapes and the headmistress is there to take care of the burned one. However, the burned one got the gateway ring, which I'm sure won't be an issue. It's not like, you know, they know how to use gateway rings, right? Stella goes to spend the night with her ex because she realizes that sleeping in a room with 4 girls that hate her isn't that awesome, so she'd rather stay with one person who doesn't really like her. But Knife Boy assures her that she's not as bad as she thinks she is, and she just needs to start treating herself nicer. Stella neglects to mention that the bad thing she did was let Bloom go deep into a forest that potentially has a burned one in it. We learn that Musa is an empath and can sense every emotion with nearly the same intensity that people are feeling them around her, and uses her music as a way to block out the emotions and focus on her own. And wow, being an empath in high school must be the worst thing ever because half the emotions you gotta be feeling are just horniness, right? We also learned the headmistress is going to try to read the mind of the burned one because she needs to know if there's more of them, and she thinks Bloom may be connected to them because she was left in the human realm 16 years ago. The last time a burned one was seen was about 16 years ago. Dane accidentally likes a photo on Reeve's Instagram. What you say? And the episode ends with that rude redhead we saw earlier going to the shack where the burned ones are and electrocuting it awake. For some reason. Roll credits. So final thoughts on episode 1. I actually kind of enjoyed it so far. I feel like there's potential of complex characters to be explored with the 5. Whether or not the show will see fit to give everyone complex character story arcs is yet to be seen, but I do see potential. My favorite ship currently is that guy Reeve and the Vines. That rude redhead girl definitely would willingly kill a person. And in an effort to not suck up multiple days of when I should be studying, I've also kind of gotten sick of binging shows because then I see them all within a day or two and then I don't have anything to watch when I want to relax, and a lot of episodes end on cliffhangers and I don't get to enjoy the cliffhangers anymore the way I used to when I watch things on a weekly basis. So I'm only going to watch an episode a week, also because I have a really busy schedule. So for the next few weeks, hopefully every Friday, I will release an episode, and maybe by the end of the season we'll see whether or not the show is good. And maybe this summer I can try rewatching the Winx Club and then compare it to the reboot and see how it holds up versus the actual live action. But for right now, I'm not going to seek out anyone talking about the Fate show or anyone compared to the Winx Club. I just want to watch it from my perspective, remembering basically nothing about the show and trying to figure out if it's good on its own. So until next time, bye friends! The burned ones used to be a problem in killing people, but they're no longer an issue anymore because some girl named Rosalind killed them all. Hopefully. And also apparently this Rosalind chick didn't really tell anyone any information about killing them because I guess she didn't think it'd be relevant later in life if any of them happened to survive her one-woman genocide.